Morning, Market Chameleons. How's everyone doing this morning? Dima, good to see you.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. You seen anything interesting there this morning?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go over. I did have two questions that came up from people who called me with some questions, so I'm going to try to answer them today, or at least show an examples about scanning for news, and some was on that implied value on the fundamental analysis. So I'm going to just go over a few examples, um, how to use the tools. But before that,
Excellent.
get started with the pre-market report.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
go with the disclaimer first before we
yep,
get started and forget. There you go.
yep. So good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help guide you, answer your questions. There's the disclaimer, everyone.
Excellent job. Let's roll.
Let's get started. And right now we're looking at the pre-market report. So these are stocks that are trading in the pre-market hours before the market opens. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. And the one right here popped up on the top of the list, DPW. It's up 48% in the pre-market hours, traded 8.3 million shares, market cap 116 million. So I see here there's an alert. If you hover over it, that's news that was coming out this morning, and you see just on the headline news right here. Oops, sorry. If you scan really quickly, they mention electric vehicles, right? Almost anything with electric vehicles, we've seen this almost on a daily basis, pops up to the top of the list, following Tesla, Nikola. So every kind of in that industry right now, lots of money getting pushed into those stocks. The reason I brought it up, though, is because, I had a call yesterday. It was a nice woman. She's like, well, tell me how to scan, how do I scan for news or scan for stocks that I think are potentially going to do well based on certain news. So that's what I'm going to show you. So here's an example. Let's say you're looking for stocks that are reporting, coming out with news and press releases, and you're looking for certain keywords to get yourself prepared in the morning. So I'm going to come back to this. Actually, before I show you, let's just take a look really quickly if there's anything moving in the higher market cap stocks, and then I'm going to show you how to scan for those. So these are stocks that are over 20 billion market cap or higher. I see 42 made the percentage gainers list, 7 on the decliners list. From that perspective, looks like, favors the bullish side more than the bearish side. Not a lot of volume though on these, 5,000 shares, 55,000 shares. So nothing popping out at me. If there are no questions specifically on this pre-market, I'm going to go and do a news scan.
Yeah, just for everyone's knowledge, because Chameleons always brings something. Bemos Beats, who comes into the chat quite a bit, was saying DPW is a scam in his opinion. He says it's been involved in Bitcoins, weed. So everyone be careful and really do their research when they're looking into these things.
Exactly. So what's happening is that right now investors are trying to jump in early, and I think what they're doing is just looking for specific keywords, like over here, electric vehicles, trying to jump in on those types of stocks. Now, I'm not saying that's a good idea or bad idea. But I had a question: how do you find these types of situations?
Yeah, there's also been a commentary over the last week or so on basically on CNBC and in the Journal, that these type of stocks are being promoted heavily on, of all things, TikTok, in videos, and on Reddit and Quora. So there are lots of spaces where they're being promoted. So yeah, everyone do your
retail
research.
Driven.
Yeah.
Right. It's a retail driven bull market in those stocks. But I'm going to go here to the home page right now, and you have this news scanner right here from Trade Ideas. I click on the news scanner, and let's just assume these are these are press releases from companies that issue news that they're communicating to their investors. And let's say we'll start with one, electric vehicles. So I'm going to do a keyword search here, electric vehicle, just to see what pops up. So this is going to scan not only the headlines, but the body of the text to see if anybody's mentioning electric vehicle. On top of that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take out some of these press releases, because you could see here the one I'm hovering over. These are class action lawsuits. They get announced all the time. So I'm going to just take those out for now. So I'm going to say exclude class action keywords. Okay. So now I have all these press releases that mention electric vehicles in them. Of course, go in there and read it and see, what the news is, investigate the stock yourself, do your due diligence. This is a quick way to see where their press releases and electric vehicles are being mentioned. Now, these are closing prices yesterday. So I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to switch this to pre-market view just to see how these are changing, in a pre-market when electric vehicles are mentioned. So look, pre-market view, all of a sudden, you're seeing a bunch of positives. All right, some negatives, but a bunch of positives. So once you get, I'm going to go back here. Here you have, I think this was the DPW, right? They're talking about electric vehicles. You open it up, you have that highlighted, so you could go in there and read it and interpret it for yourself. Over here, open it up. Here mentions electric vehicles. Go in there, read it for yourself. Again, this is a quick way if you're interested in something specific and you want to get in there early in the morning to see where there's news around those keywords. You could do it that way. For example, let's say you're looking for stocks that are just reporting guidance. Maybe you want to know what stocks are reporting guidance early in the morning. This gives you a chance to read through it and kind of make your determination even before the market opens. So again, here's the keyword guidance in there. You could look through it. Here I'll just open one up. Here you go. They're talking about their earnings, that revenue and earnings are going to be above their previous guidance. So these are obviously they're talking about other stuff in here, but you need to go in there, read it, make your determination. But again, early in the morning, you could have those. You could even save these keywords in there and just early in the morning go through them, make your checks and get prepared. This way, it's a very fast way to narrow down. It's a pretty powerful tool, actually. I think just their services alone that just do this. Take another one. Maybe you're looking for stocks that are trying to raise money, right? Because for whatever reason, they're going to do a secondary offering, dilute their shares. So that could be some kind of a sign. So secondary public offering. So that's one way to go in there, look at the news. You could also, these are unfiltered. You could just sort by biggest movers. All right. So I'm just sorting biggest movers. You could do bullish movers, bearish movers. So these are going to switch to bearish movers, biggest bearish movers with news. Again, these are with news. So they had to have some kind of a press release recently to make this list. Are there any questions on that one, Will?
Well, there's a little bit of a delay, so let's see if they catch up and ask anything.
All right. For example, I'll do another one while you're waiting. Let's say you're looking for specifically biotech stocks and you want to know phase 3. All right. Phase 3. You can do it that way. This way you go in there and see, well, what are they what are they talking about in here? You know, just scroll down. Here's their phase 3, right? You want to know EDFA biotech stocks. Here's one in here. Open it up. You can read about it really quickly. So doing your research, that's news driven. You know, this tool, you could see how many I already just, how many different keywords I already filtered out. Again, this is a question that came up yesterday. That's why I wanted to show it really quickly. And I've had the same question come up before. So I wanted to show you guys how to use that tool. No questions?
Very, very cool. We do have a question actually that just popped up relative to our morning movers.
Okay.
And I could have sworn S Browser Sync has been on before, but maybe not. He's saying, are there stats on how much of a move is already factored into the pre-market move? I often hesitate at buying a story name's pre-market, worried about the horse has already left the barn. I was his full comment, but I do know we have stats about how when a stock is moving in the pre-market, how it's reacted in the past. And then you also break it down by sector. I mean, there are a lot of interesting stats on things that have moved in the pre-market.
Yeah, there are stats, but when I think what he's saying is that, well, if it's moving in the pre-market, should I buy it? Or nobody, you know, that we don't know, you know, how much of that's up to you to make a determination. But we do show stats how the stock tended to move after gapping up or gapping down historically. So here's DPW as an example. So here closed yesterday $4.19, trading 610 in the pre-market. That's up 45%. It's trading 11.5 million shares compared to a float of 26.4. Very active, you know, on a relative basis. Let's take a look at its gap history. So this is looking at the last 12 largest gap moves in the last 3 years to see what it tended to do after the open, right? So it's gapped up in the mornings. You can't do anything about that. You're not going to get yesterday's price. It's already at a new price. But what did it do after the open? So here are the dates of the gap. These are the gap moves. So see on average, 88%, you know, really big move. I mean, you could see as high as 200%, 288%. So actually more than today, it's 45%, right? This is what it tended to do after the opening. So from the opening to the high of the day, average move 26.5%. Here, it's shown that a couple times the opening was the high price. It opened, drifted lower from there, didn't go any higher. From the open to the low, the average move 28.3%. So you could see at least based on the open to high percentage average to the open to low, it's a little bit weaker, a little bit, the magnitude favors the downside. From the open to the close, by the close of the day, 83% of the time it closed lower. So you could see it tended to drift lower. 17% of the time it was higher. Average loss 9.4%. But you know, here's your distribution. So you could see when it was up, you know, a couple times it really did go up a lot more. So here up 42%, gained another 137% by the close. But this is a distribution of returns from a historical perspective. So just to take a look at how it moves from the open to the close, on average, 35.7% in either direction. In other words, up or down 35.7%, very volatile. So it's a very volatile stock. I mean, 35.7% is, you know, incredible. That's an incredible volatility. So that's really quickly a historical price return distribution around DPW when it had a gap up in the morning. Does that help?
Very cool. Thanks.
Yep. And this is how it did, you know, coming out day after, 2 days after. So it tended to be weaker, actually, you know, didn't add to those gains. Close that. If there are no questions, are there any other questions on the pre-market or the news?
Nope. Move forward.
So another thing, I'm gonna go here to the homepage here, and we don't I don't know why we don't do this, but looking through bullish bearish ideas, here's one seasonality bullish. So these are bullish ideas based on seasonal strength. So here I found one in eBay, and I'll show you why I wanted to look at eBay, because it's tied to fundamentals. But here in eBay, I see that it filtered out that from the period from January 13th, so as of yesterday's close, to January 22nd. Okay, so during that calendar period, in the last 9 years, historically, during that calendar period between January 13th, January 22nd, eBay tended to rise 88.9% of the time for an average gain of 3.5%. So that's why this was filtered. That's what this list is. And here it's presenting some bullish ideas. So one here's this expiration January 22nd. It's looking at selling the 55.5 put, buying the 54 put for 51 cent credit. We think theoretically that spread is worth 40 cents. So if you're selling it above, right, 40 cents, you're selling 51 cents, it's worth 40 cents. That's a theoretical edge of 10.7%. In a historical probability of success, 73%. Here's another bull. This is a call spread. This is a bull call spread. So filtered out buying the 52 call, January 22nd expiration, selling the 56 call for $2.93 debit. So this situation we're buying, right? $2.93 credit. Debit. We think it's worth $3.23. So if you're buying it below theoretical value, that's theoretical edge of 10.1%. Historical probability of success, 73%. Okay. So what I did here, I'm going to go to the options chain. I'm going to click here on the options chain and take a look at that spread. So it populated here January 22nd, took me to that expiration, populated the legs of the spread, selling the 55.5 put, 98 cents, buying the 54 put, 47 cents. I'm going to load that strategy. And this is what the payout diagram looks like at expiration. So you could see here, this is where the stock is, where I'm hovering over this line, 55.72. If the stock closes right here at expiration, then we keep this 51 cent credit, and it's profitable. If it goes up anywhere from here, it's profitable, 51 cents. If it goes down a little bit, it's profitable until, if it just completely goes down below $54, we lose 99 cents, or $99 versus making $51. Keep in mind here, this is the midpoint, 58 cents. So you're always trying to get,
Yep, I got it reverbed.
Yeah, always try to get near the midpoint, 58 cents, because the further you go away from the midpoint, the more you're paying a fee to the market makers to execute that trade. So you could see here the difference, 58 cents, 51 cents, that's 7 cents. So think about it, that's more than 10%, right? So when you're putting that in, look at the midpoint of the market, 51 cents, 65 cents, because the further from 58 cents to 51 cents, if you give up 7 cents, that's more than 10%. You have to make up 10% somewhere. It's a huge feat, right? So keep that in mind as well. But this is before I analyze this further, one of the things I started to look at is, all right, I see the seasonality looks pretty good. So between January 13th, January 22nd, eBay goes up, went up historically 89% of the time for an average gain of 3.5%. I'm going to have to hold this for 6 days, this till expiration, 6 trading days. So historically, eBay over 6 trading days went up 54% of the time for an average gain of 0.5%, which is fine because, really we just need it to kind of sit there. And right now, eBay technically it's in an uptrend, meaning the stock is above its 20-day, 50-day, 250-day moving average, 20 days above the 50-day, 50 days above the 250. So then and this is what I found. The next thing I'm doing, where we're talking about the implied value of a stock, and this is what this morning I came into, and I don't think you guys can't see this now because I'm still testing this data and cleaning it, but I'm going to show you what I found and what's kind of like important to know when you're doing these multiples, right? So here I looked and I'm like, okay, 3-year average P in eBay is 16.5. The 3-year average price to sales in eBay is 3.3. So does everybody know multiples? Really quickly, I'll just describe them. The multiple is how much you're paying for each per share for each earnings per share, right? So like take the market cap of eBay divided by its total net earnings, and that's the multiple you're paying above its earnings. Price to sales, it's kind of the same thing. If you take the whole market cap of eBay divided by the total revenue, that's the multiple you're paying over its total sales. And these are on a trailing 12 months. So I looked at eBay and I'm like, okay, I have eBay here 16.7 PE, 3-year average 16.5. So it looks in line to me, but then I got this, if it reverts, the implied value should be 120. So I'm like scratching my head here going, well, what's going on here? Right, because you'd think it's should be right around there, right? So these look in line, but these PEs look out of line. Then I looked, I'm like, okay, I know for this, we're getting these from Morningstar actually. So I know that there is some adjustments there. So what's the adjustment here? Because we're picking these up straight from the Gap report trailing 12 months earnings. And let me show you here. If you look at eBay's Gap trailing 12 months earnings, it's $7.32. So if it's $7.32, really the PE is like 7, right? Something like that, 7 or 8, something like that. And I went to the fundamentals here. And this is important because when you're doing your analysis and you're using multiples to create implied value, you're going to run into this. So I go into here, eBay, and I'm looking at their quarterly report. And I'm like, okay, this is what they reported for their diluted earnings per share. So I see last quarter, 94 cents, 105. What is this? 451. So I see this big jump, right? That's why we're getting this 7, this big jump here. I'm like, okay, if I add all these up, it's like something like $7, which would give this a P of 7. I'm like, well, what do other people have? So I went to Yahoo Finance here, eBay. Here's its P, 7.73, right? Which you would think it's like an amazing PE. You would be jumping on it if you found that. So then this is where you have to kind of go in there and say, well, what actually happened? What is this 7.73 PE? So let me show you really quickly how to read that. Because this is not wrong, okay? This is the situation. This is not wrong. And this is not wrong, okay? And I'm going to show you why. They're both right. But let me explain. So I'm going to go here to the SEC filings. All right. And I'm going to pick, I think it's over here, right? The 10Q interactive. This is their actual filings with the SEC. Let's look at the financial statements. Consolidated income. Okay, so this is eBay's net revenues, cost of revenues, gross profits. I'm going to scroll down here and look what happened. Here's its net income, right? For that quarter. Remember, this is just for this quarter that we're looking at. What happened? This is the one that's out of line from the other ones, right? Because this one big bump and then comes back down. So is this real? What happened? Why did it go from 69 to 453 back to $1.95? So what happened here? I'm going to this filing, and I do see here 453, net income 453. But look how it's broken down. 64 cents of that net income is from continuing operations. So basically 64 cents of their net income is just from regular business operations, right? Like whatever whatever service they do, they make fees when they match up a buyer and a seller. Here's $303.89 is from discontinued operations. In other words, this $389, you shouldn't be expecting it, because they most likely, I didn't go read the details. Most likely it's like a sale of an asset that they reported in net income for that one quarter, right? That you shouldn't expect, because it's not continuing. It's not from earnings from their continuing operations. It's just like a one-time sale. So that combined for that quarter, you could see, boom, that went up to 453. So if you're just taking the GAAP numbers, the trailing 12-month earnings, right, and you include that in there, this is what's going to happen. PE 7.73. But realistically, it's not a PE 7.73, because we know that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen every quarter, right? They're not generating that in fees from every quarter. It's a one time. So that's why when you back this out, right, you back this out to get a sense of what they're actually earning from their normal operations, you go back to 16.7. Hopefully that helps. My aim is to kind of point things out, teach something a little bit every day, but I'm showing you because even if you're using, you got to be careful. Even if you could be using different vendors, and I'm showing you, and I could show you other ones, but hopefully you guys see that point. Are there any questions, Will?
No, it's good. They're super helpful. Mike H actually mentioned, he says he loves it when you demonstrate the Chameleon tools. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you. We're right up against the bell, so if there are no questions, Will,
yeah, perfect.
Let everybody go.
I don't remember. I'll try to. We did have a question, but I don't remember the trade that was talked about yesterday. We talked about an earnings trade, so I'll go through the show from yesterday. Pavel was asking how it turned out, how it looks today. So, anyways, we'll try to bring that to you tomorrow. Everyone, thanks for joining us. Dima, great job as always, buddy.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. Have a great trading day. And